Welcome back into the Canes Power Play podcast, and in today's episode, we're going to be going over the Carolina Hurricanes free agency process and how I could see some of these working out, if some guys are going to stay or if we're going to decide to part ways with them. So coming up first, obviously the big name that we all want to talk about, John Carlson, eligible to be a free agent tomorrow at 12 p.m. Wednesday, July 1st. It'll be interesting to see if Carolina lets him, I don't want to say walk, because you trade for him at the draft, you trade a sixth rounder, and then an East Coast Hockey League player for him, just for some rights to see if you can get some negotiations going. The 36-year-old defenseman had 71 games played, 14 goals, 46 assists for 60 points, and it's kind of been reported he's demanding $9 to $10 million. You could say that's high. I think for him that's okay. Especially with Carolina's cap. I think if you do a 1 to 2 year deal at $9 to $10 million, I don't think that's bad. If you do anything longer than that, I think we've got an issue. There's a chance maybe you can do some front loading on the contract, do a 4 year, 3 year, something like that, $8 million, maybe, get some bonuses in there. We know Eric Tolsky, and how he works those signing bonuses and performance bonuses into the contract. Maybe he can do something like that. But as I'm recording this right now, Tuesday, June 30th at 12 p.m., he's not been signed. So it's interesting. Are we going to end up signing him? Are we not? I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, some common ground can be met with him and, maybe the future of Alexander Nikishin. But overall, that's the first guy we'll take a peek at. Next up is Mike Riley, the depth defenseman at 42 games played, 1 goal, 8 assists, and 9 points. For Riley, I think he'll be back. Eric Tolsky talked about it. They like to have him back. I think he was a really solid player that gives Carolina some solid two-way play, especially when he's in the lineup. Had a really nice shorthanded goal this season against the Islanders, his former team. But overall, just a depth defenseman. He's a pro's pro. If he's not playing, he's not going to throw a fit. He knows when to get into the lineup and how to act when he's into the lineup, which is something very difficult to play one game and then sit out for 2 weeks and then hop right back into it. It takes skill for these depth defensemen and depth forwards to be able to do that. He's done that really well. My contract, projection for him is, 1 year, $1 million. I believe he was signed to a 1 year, $1.1 million contract. So something similar to that. I think it's fine. I mean, Carolina's got the room. Is there a chance they do, $975,000, $950,000 maybe? With some performance bonuses, some games played bonuses in there. But overall, Mike Riley, I'd like to see him back. I think everybody else would. Pretty good guy in the locker room. Next up for the UFA list, as far as some of these NHL guys go, it's Freddie Andersen. 35 games played, 3.05 goals against, and an .874 save percentage. The regular season numbers were not great. You look at the playoff numbers and what he did, going 8-0, and on the first 2 rounds, I think that was pretty impressive. I think there's a scope where he definitely plays next season, according to Elliot Friedman. It's come out multiple times that, he's heard Freddie Andersen does want to play next season. Is it in Carolina? I don't know. He took a pretty big discount to stay the last time he was in this situation. Do I think he could take another one? For sure, especially if Carolina isn't interested in Connor Hellebuyck anymore. I do think that Freddie Andersen makes sense to sign a 1 year, $1.5 million contract. Again, you can throw bonuses into there. It's just something that these veteran guys take. Brent Burns, for example, he just signed right back with Colorado, I think at $850,000 a year, but with $2 million in performance bonuses. So not something that counts against the cap, and it's easy for both sides to do. Freddie Andersen, I think you probably run Bussy Kochetkov next season. I do think Freddie Andersen could be the third goalie, because that you're not going to stay completely healthy all season long. It's very difficult to do. So if we were to get him back, I think a 1 year, $1.5 million deal, $1 million deal, I think that makes sense. But I could also see a market where he can go, fetch a $3 million deal, $3.5, $4 million from a team that needs goaltending, especially after watching him in the playoffs and seeing what he does. I think Edmonton would probably be interested in that. He played good in the playoffs, and I know Toronto was kind of in the mix just based off of getting him for a backup veteran type of role. The same thing he'd play in Carolina. I don't think, no matter where he signs, I don't think he's going to get a starting job anymore. But I do think he'd be a really good, valuable veteran goalie to have. He can go in there and teach a young guy and kind of show guys the ropes. But I don't know if that will be in Carolina or not. Time will tell. As we have, again, we've got 24 hours as I'm recording this right now to see if we've got time to hand out some of these contracts or is some of this stuff going to continue until, free agency opens? Because when it opens, Mike Riley, John Carlson, Freddie Anderson, all those guys can get talked to. And they're not really Carolina's not really their priority because they can talk to 31 other NHL teams. I know John Carlson's going to be the big one. If Carolina can't get him signed, Tampa's going to be there, Boston, Philly. So there's going to be tons of teams that are going to be interested there. But move on to Alexander Nikishin, restricted free agent. So for him, it's an interesting spot because apparently he's wanting north of $8 million. That's a lot of money for him at the moment. He doesn't deserve that. 81 games played, 11 goals, 22 assists, 33 points. Solid player, first team all rookie. Right now, he does not deserve $8 million. And my concern is in 3 years, he probably will. So how do you go about this? Do you bite the bullet and give it to Nikishin and go, okay, 7, 8 years, or 7 years, 6 years, however many years you want, You can even do a bridge deal. Do 3 years, 2 years. Give him $8 million or whatever. You can only sign Carlson or Nikishin. Because you don't want to clog up the room. You don't want Nikishin or Gostisbehere or Chatfield being the extra depth defenseman. It just doesn't make sense. When they traded for John Carlson, I thought that was for sure that Nikishin was going to be shipped away. Obviously, that can still happen. They haven't signed Carlson. There's a couple teams interested. LA has been. The LA Kings have been, in there. The Rangers, the Bruins, Winnipeg, obviously, but that was kind of with the Hellebuck situation, so I'm not sure what's going on there anymore. Overall, Nikishin, in my opinion, and I put this on my Twitter, if it was me, I would sign him to a 7-year contract at $7.5 million and play him top pair with Slavin. That's what I would do, because I see some potential in there. I think about it like a Brady Shea situation, a Keandre Miller. Like, Carolina can turn defensemen into something really spectacular. So do they go that route of trying to play that long game with him? Like, it didn't take Keandre Miller but one season to come into Carolina and be on everybody's big board of being a really good left defenseman. Shea was really good. He's not doing great in Nashville. Carolina's got a system. If you're a left defenseman that's got size, that can skate, and has a two-way game, you're going to fit. You look at Keandre Miller, he fits like a glove. He's big, he can skate, he's got a two-way game. Shea was big, he could skate, he's got a two-way game. Nikishin, big, got a two-way game. Skating is there. He's still played his first season in the NHL, so he still has so much time to develop. I get he's an older rookie at 24, but still a rookie, He hasn't been playing in the league since he was 19, so I don't want to give up on him yet. But again, you don't get Carlson to not, right? So we'll see how that goes. I gave my contract projection if he is to get one in Carolina. 7 years, $7.5 million, $8 million, something of that nature. I believe in signing him long term. But we'll move on to some of the AHL guys. And a Giovanni Smith down there for the Chicago Wolves. 25 games played, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points, 70 penalty minutes. We brought him in a couple years ago after we got rid of Brendan Lemieux. He didn't pan out in the NHL for us. Not like we expected him to. I think ever since we got Brendan Lemieux in to Carolina, we kind of wanted those tougher guys. Giovanni Smith was a great tough guy down there for the Chicago Wolves. 70 penalty minutes, as I mentioned. Does he re-sign? I don't know. Probably not. I think they're trying to make some room because there's a couple questionable decisions that they decided to make, and we'll kind of go over that here in a second. But Giovanni Smith, just a grinding type of guy. Good in the locker room, good physicality, but I think they might want to make some way for some of the younger guys that are going to get an opportunity to play in the AHL. And that leads me to my next guy, in Skylar Brind'Amour, Rod Brind'Amour's son. 68 games played, 16 goals, 18 assists for 34 points. This one shocked me that we didn't re-sign him. And obviously, we still can, in free agency or whatever, but it doesn't seem like that's the route they're going to end up going. Not bad. 68 games played, 16 goals, 18 assists, for a third line, two-way type of forward. I do think there's a reality where he can get fourth line minutes somewhere, or depth, center minutes somewhere. He's really not a bad player. Good in the face-off dot. Good awareness on him. So it was a bit shocking that he didn't get re-signed. I would imagine that they're going to try to just allow some of these younger guys to come up. Maybe a Charlie Serrato, Ryabkin, see if they can get those guys a lot of minutes in the AHL. And then Josiah Slavin, the captain of was the captain of the Chicago Wolves. Again, Jacob Slavin's brother. So 69 games played, 6 goals, 19 assists, 25 points. Again, nothing special for him. Again, they're captains, so it is kind of a little shocking that they let some of these guys go. But we'll have to see kind of what they decide to do with it. But nothing crazy. He wasn't going to make the NHL. He wasn't going to, I believe he's 28, 29, I think, something like that. So he wasn't going to come up and make the NHL or anything like that. He actually might be a little bit older than that. Let me fact check that real quick. Okay, 27. Sorry, younger than that. Said 28. He's 27. So, he's not going to come and make the NHL and score 40 points on the bottom six or 30 points. It's just not going to happen. So maybe they'll let him go get a bigger opportunity. And then Ryan Suzuki, 66 games played, 13 goals, 35 assists for 48 points. Once upon a time was somebody that was viewed as a really, really, promising prospect, and injuries didn't help him, and, didn't really fit in a lot of spots. And for him, not a bad season in the AHL. I think they're just going to let him go. Again, this is another situation of them, in my opinion, of them going out there and kind of getting rid of some spots so they can open some up for some younger guys, and we'll have to see who those younger guys are. But yeah, Suzuki, he'll get an opportunity at an AHL level for sure to play a top six, maybe even a fourth line. If somebody needs a fourth line playmaker, maybe they'll go reach out for Ryan Suzuki. Next up, Noel Gunler. He was an RFA. They qualified his RFA. 71 games played, 15 goals, 20 assists for 35 points. He did sign overseas for 2 years in Sweden. So, yes, I know that he's overseas. However, they still are going to keep his rights if he were to come back. He's also arbitration eligible, but because he's going overseas, I don't think he exercises that option. Again, a right-handed shot, 6'2", he's got a solid shot, so not a bad decision to qualify him at all. I think if he does come back from overseas and he's better, you have his rights. So, you see in a couple years what happens. Justin Rabada, RFA qualified again, 58 games played, 23 goals, 37 assists, 60 points. This was the guy for Chicago. Him and Nadeau. This is the right decision. He might be the next captain of the Chicago Wolves. Really good player. Another guy that I think could probably get some NHL minutes at some point. I think he's already got some in the NHL a little bit, but I think he could be another guy that continues to get those minutes. Is undersized. I believe he's 5'8". Right-handed shot. There's another 5'8" right-handed shot on Carolina that is pretty darn good, and it's Logan Stankoven. So, not comparing nobody to nobody, but some similarities there. Again, just a good move to qualify him. I think a 2-year, 975, 950 makes sense. Keep him around, keep him in the system. And then Noah Phillip, 29 games played, 8 goals, 9 assists for 7 points. Is it Noah Phillip or Noah Phillip? I think it's Phillip. But besides the point, yeah, it's Noah Phillip. I don't know why I have Phillip written down, but it's Phillip. He signed overseas as well. He's in Sweden. So you're fine with letting this one go. He was solid. We picked him up from Edmonton on waivers. Just another right-handed center, a big type of power forward player, and just never really found his stride. So he ends up going overseas. That'll be fine. And then Victor Noshev qualified his RFA, 30 games played, 4 goals, 5 assists, 9 points. I was a little iffy on this one. I could have went either way. I don't love that he's back, I guess. Just didn't move me as much as a player goes, and I think I would have rather kept Slavin or Brindamore over him, if you're trying to get rid of roster spots. So this one was a little bit of a head scratcher for me, but we'll end up, we'll see what ends up happening as far as the contract goes. Is it only a 1-year deal? Is there something because they want a Russian down? Who knows? So we'll end up seeing how that works out. And then going defensively, Dominic Finsor, 60 games played, 10 goals, 25 assists, 35 points. They did not qualify him. Makes sense. Undersized defenseman. Pretty undersized. Is there a universe he can get some NHL minutes? Maybe. Maybe for a bad team like a Calgary. Even though they do have a solid D-core now, that they're kind of building it up. But I could see him getting some healthy extra minutes. He can run a power play. So they let him go. I'm fine with it. It doesn't move me too much. And then we go to Ronan Seely. RFA qualified, 69 games played, 11 goals, 12 assists for 23 points. Also arbitration eligible. So this is a good move there for Carolina. Really, really good player, good two-way guy, stands 6 feet, plays that left side. Solid player. I like this move. I don't think he'll take Carolina arbitration, but time will tell. And then Alexei Hemosami qualified his RFA, 52 games played, 4 goals, 13 assists, 17 points. A good right-handed shot. Just, again, a good player. Not arbitration eligible, so Carolina can sit here and get him to, I think it'll probably be about a 2-year, $800,000 for him. Somewhere in that aspect I think could work. Now going to goalies. Caden Primier, they qualified his RFA, 39 games played, 2.41 goals against with a .916 save percentage. He's also arbitration eligible, but he's coming back. Same thing with Mike Riley. Eric Tolsky talked about Caden Primier and said that he would like to have him back. So I would imagine this gets done within the next couple of hours, to be honest with you. Next day, for sure. Arbitration eligible. I don't think he takes Carolina to arbitration. And then Nikita Kwap. He played most of his games in the East Coast Hockey League for Greensboro. 29 games played, 3.53 goals against with a 8.8-1 save percentage. I think you let him go. Wasn't great in my opinion. I think you're fine with letting him go. And then Amir Miftakov, 28 games played, 3.25 goals against, 8.88 save percentage. So in my opinion, another goalie that you let go. I don't think there's a path to the NHL. I don't think there's a path to him starting in the AHL for Carolina. So I think you're fine with letting him go. And again, all qualifying offers can be accepted from July 1st through July 15th. So we'll see if some of these players decide to accept, or see if Carolina, or see if they want Carolina to throw them something. So again, this is my free agency preview. A ton of names on here. Some names that are definitely worth keeping. Some that are not. Time will tell as we move on. Again, I'm shocked some of these guys haven't, been signed to some new contracts, with it being less than 24 hours before July 1st in free agency opens. But it'll be an interesting day tomorrow. I look forward to it. Thank you guys for tuning in again. A lot of support in the last video. I appreciate it very much. Go check out my podcast on Spotify. Check out my social medias, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, website, at Canes Power Play. Thank you guys for listening.